After he left, pretty much I got everything from my mother, and I think, you know, my mother took him to give him as an example for me, you know, what can happen with drugs and what can happen with alcohol. It was, you know, look at, you know, don't do drugs, don't do alcohol, because this is what can happen. And it wasn't, you know, it wasn't until, you know, I heard about what happened to him that everything kind of came out about who he was, and I learned a lot more about him, you know, like what a nice guy he was, you know, how smart he was, you know, how he enjoyed life, and, you know, just the person he was, you know. But, you know, growing up, he was that, you know, a lesson on, you know, don't do drugs and don't do alcohol, because, you know, this is what can happen.
What did you think about, so the neighborhood sort of like, they all loved him a lot. Like, everyone would come by and say hi to him. Yeah. He'd talk to everyone, and he'd watch people's houses. What do you think about that whole situation?
You know, I'm so happy. I'm relieved that that's how it was. I was always afraid that, you know, he had just, you know, I was afraid that, you know, he had done drugs and ended up in a ditch somewhere. You know, I was afraid, you know, but I'd always hoped that, you know, he got his life together, he, you know, maybe even had a family and, you know, lived, you know, was successful, you know, who knew, but, you know, how it was now, you know, I'm very happy that it was like that, because he had people that cared about him, people that loved him, you know. Yeah, he was homeless, but, you know, he wasn't exactly homeless, you know, in the traditional sense. This was his home, you know. He chose to be out here, you know, so he didn't have a roof under his head, you know. He had this beautiful park around, you know, to look at every day, and, you know, nothing wrong with that, you know. Different lifestyle.